and welcome to SBN News. Scott and I are here to provide you with a digest of all things SBN, our member news, and introduce you to some of the business leaders in our community. You may have missed us on your screens last week as we have switched our show to a bi-weekly to complement our new partnership with Terry Murden at the Daily Business Group and the new ways that we plan to amplify our news with our global community. Our partnership with Daily Business will see the digital newspaper feature regular columns by SBN founder and chairman Russell Dalgleish and our international SBN ambassadors. It will also showcase our bi-weekly podcast with Fraser Allen and, of course, last but not least, our SBN News.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that, and it's going to be another place for which you can digest all the content coming out from Scottish Business Network. But speaking of which, I'm going to take a look back at some of the exciting things you've been up to the past couple of weeks. Last Thursday, we hosted our Net Zero Digital Conference, where we heard from a whole host of speakers like Martin Valenti, Robert Swan, Danielle Kelly, Jamie Lindsay, and Sumit Bose. You can actually catch all the replays of that event on the conference website or join the Net Zero Scot community today at netzerocommunity.scot. That wasn't our only event last week. Last Tuesday, we welcomed 3 Scottish business leaders to speak to the SBN community. Bruce Walker of Future X, Lizzie Braw of Hey Summit, and Bruce Walker of Purist Gin all shared an ask on how they can continue to scale their businesses. On the night, we also had another masterclass, this time with Barry Fudge. Barry's the former head of endurance at British Athletics, who helped Mo Farah win 4 gold medals. It was a really insightful and quite funny interview, talking about how someone can go from being so involved in athletics to then being locked down for a year. So you can actually catch that fascinating interview because it's been released as this week's episode of the SBN podcast. You can listen to that on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts. Another exciting thing that we did this week was we hosted our first Sbn Coaching Forum. The talented group of coaches within the SBN membership have come together to offer support to the business owners that are leading through this time of great change. We're delighted to see the feedback that's come back already from the session, and this is going to be quite a regular occurrence, maybe monthly, just as a place for SBN members to maybe come in and just vent a little bit and find somebody to actually help them when they're trying so hard to help their teams. In terms of what's coming up, there's plenty to look forward to. We've got something big planned for International Women's Day, which we'll hear a little bit more about in this show on March 8th. We're having a facelift. Through the help of Katie Hester, we are redesigning the website and members portal. It'll showcase our events schedule much clearer. We're going to have a dedicated space for news and updates, and it's just going to look much cleaner in general. But more excitingly, we'll be launching our very own content library, where members can search through all our recorded talks, news shows, podcasts, masterclasses, etc. We have also joined Social Enterprise Scotland. As we continue to expand in 2021, we've joined that network to ensure we've got best practice for supporting our members as we continue to grow. Speaking of continue to grow, there's plenty of events coming up in March, along with our International Women's Day. We've got a couple of events on the 16th, first of all with Fraser Morrison, who's going to be talking all about how to utilise LinkedIn to sell internationally. You can join us from 12 p.m. live on Zoom as Fraser delivers the session from Singapore. Then on the evening, we've got a very special event which focuses on diversity and inclusion when you're going global. Hosted by Ruby Sweeney of the Events Hub, our panel will discuss the importance and benefits of having a diverse workforce when scaling your business internationally. Ruby will be joined by our India ambassador, Tom Thomas, Paul Scovrin of 3N Consulting, Broadreach Managing Director and IOD Edinburgh Chair, Julie Ashworth, and our masterclass speaker, Louise Worrell. Details of all that can be found in the description of this video, as well as in the members portal. But that's enough about us. Let's hear from some of the members.
Yeah, I'm delighted to firstly welcome Roger Daynes, Regional Manager at Amplifi Solutions. Hello, Roger.
Hello, Kendra. Hello, Scott. Nice to see you this morning. And thanks.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm wonderful. Thank you. Not in my usual environment, just up in WeWork in George Street, commandeering a meeting room whilst my own office is under renovation. So don't pay any attention to the screen behind me there. The wrong time and everything on it as well.
It's been a while since we were in that building, so it's good to see that you've been able to get in there. So do you want to start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about Amplifi Solutions?
I'd love to, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today and the rest of the Sbn network. I joined the network just last month. Very briefly, a little bit about me. Born and bred in Edinburgh, educated here, did some work professionally in Edinburgh before. My first expat experience in my early 20s was with the Mountbatten internship program. This is approaching 20 years now. Wow. So lived in New York for a year, came back to Edinburgh. Then I moved down to London, mainland Europe. I've lived in the Middle East, in Dubai predominantly. And then I moved back to Scotland about 3 or 4 years ago. So got about 11 or 12 years as an expat under my belt. And as a result, I can see how strong the international Scottish network and diaspora is and continues to be. I'm very pleased to be a member of Sbn to help us, keep punching well above our weight. So I'm the regional manager for a tax specialist firm called Amplifi Solutions. Our business was founded by two ex-corporate finance directors about 7 years ago from a base in Belfast. I'm the 21st employee, the first in the UK mainland, from an Edinburgh base. And it's my predominant role is to raise awareness of the HMRC's Research and Development Tax Relief Scheme amongst the Scottish SME business community. Really would be our focus. It's a huge tax break for businesses all over the UK. It's a small part, I suppose, that I play and my business plays in helping early stage, even scale up and well-established businesses harness their growth aspirations, pull further or as many financial levers that are at their disposal. So I like to think that I'm playing a small part in the growth of these great companies and the growth of the Scottish economy itself.
Amazing. And when you mention that growth, especially during recent times, we've seen that all organizations have that element of innovation, and we've seen people pivot, adapt their current processes, adopt new online approaches, but some businesses don't necessarily recognize these shifts as innovation. So how do you work with organizations to help them recognize that and that they're eligible for your support?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, the main claimants, as you would expect, in terms of innovation would be the tech sectors. You've got medtech, biotech, fintech, all of which have been particularly prevalent certainly over the last couple of years. And the pandemic has probably amplified that in a way, if you'll pardon the pun there. But, other qualifying sectors, that you, again, would expect to be quite active in innovation would be the engineering sector, manufacturing, food and drink, even, wholesale and retail. There are, wholesale and retail, for example, might not be a sector you associate with innovation. But if you think about the digital transformation that you just alluded to there, so many businesses now are adopting e-commerce as a pivotal, fundamental part of the way that they engage customers, the way that they retain customers and win more customers and so on. So software development is completely ubiquitous in all elements of innovation, but innovation itself is ubiquitous. I'll cover this a little bit later on about the sort of statistics for the United Kingdom, but as a whole. But the way we engage our clients, I'm a part of the Scottish Business Network. I want to be able to engage leading entrepreneurs, innovative businesses, early stage, high growth potential. And we typically operate on an initial meeting, a free consultation, if you like, where I would speak to the business C-suite, the founder, the finance director, and so on, and just ask them about the nature of what the innovation is that they've been undertaking, the type of projects that they've worked on over the last couple of years, or that they are currently in this current financial year and in future, and the types of money that they've been applying to that in terms of staff, in terms of subcontracting, in terms of materials for prototyping and consumables. Think drug testing, think life sciences. The people in white coats developing and repeating and developing and repeating over and over again, all these iterations of vaccines and of drugs and of software products and so on. All of that innovation and pushing the envelope of a sector, overcoming technical uncertainty, can be deemed as innovation. And that's where the government will effectively say, we'll share that risk with you. We'll give you a leg up, we'll help your business grow. And in doing so, if that business succeeds, they hire more staff. The government gets a lot of that back in terms of PAYE, corporation tax, and so on, and less people on benefits, more people on work, which is great. So the initial meeting that I have, I'm trying to uncover all of those, the nature of their product development. We then have kind of like a two-faceted approach beyond that, where we have qualified accountants who will take a very, very deep, granular look through the balance sheet of these businesses to capture as much of that qualifying cost as possible. And in tandem with that, we'll have a number of case study writers who have long experience in the likes of software development, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, manufacturing, you name it, multi-sector experience, who will build the narrative, build the case study that clashes with the number analysis that we do. And then we present it almost like in a thesis form to HMRC to say, this is what this business is due back in the form of R&D tax relief, which can be availed via reduction in their corporation tax, or if they're a loss-making business at that point, a cash injection, a cash boost to that business at that point in time, which is invaluable for their runway naturally. Yeah.
You're right. That's some invaluable support for businesses that are at that stage. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned there briefly, like the main claimants. So who is eligible and who are the main claimants, and what does it look like in Scotland? What's the uptake for this?
Well, the uptake, that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I covered, you suppose, who the main claimants are. In Scotland, there is a phenomenal innovative community, multi-sector. Looking at the Central Belt up through Dundee, which is an absolute world beater in tech, as we could clearly see. Aberdeen is, I suppose, repurposing a lot of the wealth up in Aberdeen towards software development. I've been speaking to companies lately who are developing apps for the NHS regions to optimize their bed allocations, to make hospitals more efficient, which is particularly prevalent, as you'd expect in the current environment. We've worked with and recently performed a R&D claim for a business that allows large organizations such as banks and insurance companies who are involved in the protection of data and the transfer of money to be more nimble in the face of cybercrime. Cybercrime, again, with the prevalence of online activity in the pandemic, businesses have had to, increase their guard against that. We work with businesses in the hospitality and leisure sector who have naturally been very, very hard hit. I mean, one particular client who we helped with an R&D claim has seen their turnover plummet 95% year on year. They will probably make it through, but the R&D tax relief that we were able to get them was a small, albeit small, but important measure to combat their loss in revenue. The types of claimants that we see are quite simply looking for extra cash to increase that operating runway, offset a fall in revenue. In the case of the cybercrime business that I just mentioned, the quite frankly enormous claim that we were able to secure for them, and these are annual claims, it was a significant uplift on their previous year. That was a huge cash boost to the balance sheet. It actually happened to coincide with an approach from a buyer, and it made them a more attractive valuation on that basis. And they were ultimately able to close the sale and exit their business at a particularly high amount. In fact, it was a pretty high profile exit last year. So there are many ways that R&D tax credits can help businesses. And we're seeing across Scotland, across the huge innovative community, claims occurring everywhere and anywhere. It's really a question of business owners asking themselves, what nature of innovation and uncertainty am I trying to overcome here? Am I eligible? And that's where it's really rather wise to engage a tax specialist like myself at Amplifi Solutions to help them with that analysis. And we work in partnership with our accountants as well. I should say that the biggest source of our referrals and new business is from the accountancy network, but we can work hand in hand with those accountants to help them get a better outcome from the scheme. There's just one other point I actually just wanted to make. I alluded to earlier on about claims statistics across the United Kingdom. Interestingly, and actually surprisingly, in my opinion, given the level of innovation activity across Scotland's Central Belt and up the East Coast and so on, it is everywhere. We can see that. Interestingly, surprisingly, Scottish businesses aren't claiming R&D tax credits at the same rate as the other 3 UK nations. And obviously, by that, I mean England, Wales and Northern Ireland. We're claiming about half per capita of the claims in England, 60% of Northern Ireland, about 70% of Wales. And that's in consecutive years. So Scottish firms in the year up to October 19 claimed £235 million in R&D tax credits to help their businesses grow and reinvest and innovate and so on. That was a 60 million increase year on year. But as I said, this is not the same rate as the other 3 UK nations, which is kind of odd. I'm an optimist, I suppose inherently. I like to think that represents an opportunity gap, that there is a awareness raising that could still be there for our SMEs to help grow. Even their accountants as well. We work with accountants who don't have the bandwidth to be able to focus on R&D tax credits. So it's an untapped resource, I think, still in Scotland. The UK government has got huge allocations of money for R&D tax credits, and they're happy to pay it out if the innovation is there. So that's one final point I wanted to make, and maybe a thought-provoking for the business leaders who are listening to this podcast to have a think about their own portfolio and what opportunities might be in there.
Well, thanks for that. And obviously, we say with our audience, we've seen some of the info that you share with your network through events and on your social media. So if you want to find out more from Roger, how you can achieve extra support for your innovation efforts, get in touch. And it was a delight to hear from you, Roger. So thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again soon.
My pleasure, Kendra. Thanks, and nice to see you again. Scott, nice to meet you again. And all the very best to the Sbn members out there.
Thank you, Roger.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Roger. I'm delighted to welcome our next speaker all the way from South Africa. Thank you for joining us today, Nicola. Before we get into it, could you just introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. My name is Nicola Probin. I am a Cape Townian, and I wear a couple of different business hats. The first one is that I'm co-founder of the Africa Scotland Business Network, which was founded in November 2019. The other one is that I have an events and marketing company called Firecracker, Events and Marketing. And then the third one is that I'm also the co-founder of Illumi.Nation, which is what we're going to be chatting about today.
Yeah, that was my next question. I wanted to ask if you could share some more details about Illumi.Nation and maybe touch on this strive for balance.
Certainly. So I could talk about this all day, but I'll try and keep it brief. So myself and my business partner, Claire Alexander, as I said, we own these 3 businesses, obviously female-led. And also in 2019, we felt like there was really time to start having a conversation around not so much gender equality, but bringing men into the conversation around co-creating what we want our future to look like. So I think we can all agree that if we leave it up to business and government, nothing is really going to happen. And it's our strong belief that it's actually up to all individuals to take action, to take responsibility for creating the future that we want to live in and the world that we want to create for our children. And essentially our belief is that, there's lots of conversation, important conversation happening around gender equality, but we feel like for us, it needs to move on a little bit and be a bit more inclusive, a bit more action driven and a bit more positive. And that's what Illumi.Nation really strives to do. So it's a platform for people to get engaged with, where we can say, right, what are the actions that we're going to take that are going to raise our consciousness, our awareness, and create a better world? And for us, it's around activating 3 very simple actions that we ask our community, our illuminators, to do every month. And that is around, our symbol is a triangle. So there's three elements representing the triangle to maintain balance. And that is around, the first one is around doing something for yourself to nurture or heal something in your own self. The second one is around your community. So what can you do for your immediate community or your broader community that is giving back in some positive way? And what can you do for your planet? Because obviously that's where we all need to hang out for quite a bit longer. So what can we do to help heal our planet? And that's really what Illumi.Nation is. It's this movement that we've kickstarted again. We did launch it in November 2019, but we also launched Africa Scotland Business Network at the same time. So we are really excited that Africa Scotland Business Network and Scottish Business Network coming together now to relaunch and re-energize Illumi.Nation and really grow the community and make some amazing positive impact.
That's one of the things that I really like, is this positive sign of it. And we've experienced it before in other topics such as climate, is that since such drastic change is needed, it's sometimes easy to talk about why it's bad now, but something Illumi.Nation does is focus on this positive.
Absolutely. And I think, as I said earlier, it's really our belief that each and every single person is here on this planet to make a positive difference, no matter where you live, what your socioeconomic circumstances are. There's very practical, simple things that you can do. And it's around activating that consciousness and empowering people to actually do it and create this amazing movement. Illumi.Nation is around the concept around balance, right? So it's our belief, like, we all have male and female energies, regardless of whether you're male or female. The male energy is around, and this is not your gender, it's the energy that the masculine holds, is around driving action, implementing stuff, looking at immediate goals and making things happen. The female energy, not woman, but the female energy is around communication, big picture, being intuitive. And as human beings, we all need to tap into those elements of ourselves, regardless of what gender we identify with. And so what's happened in the past centuries really is that patriarchy has denied those aspects of ourselves. So men have been taught, you must deny any of those feminine aspects because it's not acceptable, it's not allowed. All the nonsense dialogue around men can't cry, you can't be sensitive, all that stuff is so damaging and is so deeply entrenched. And, likewise for women is that, you can't, to be pushy or bossy is seen as a negative thing, but it's actually just our whole human selves. And so, it's our belief that when we deny those other aspects, you're only half a person. And when you're only half a person, how can you be happy and how can you bring your best self to the world? How can we all benefit from your amazing talents? Because you're actually denying those aspects of yourselves. So Illumi.Nation is also around identifying what are those things that we as humans can get into balance as well to be happier and more wholesome individuals. So it's around, just for us, it's, we need to bring the theoretical into the practical to actually start shifting stuff, right? Yeah. So it's actually like, what are those things that we can bring into focus? For me, it's like all this stuff happens out here. But when you actually start bringing it into focus, it's amazing how deeply entrenched these belief systems have become in ourselves. Even for myself, I'm very aware of this, and I've got a son and a daughter. They're 6 and 9 years old. So I'm very wary and mindful of the language I use around them, right? But it's everywhere. So it's around bringing that stuff into focus and being critical of your own thought beliefs and actually challenging yourself on a daily basis around some of the stuff that doesn't serve us anymore. Okay. So gender stereotyping has, there's, I wouldn't say there's many pros, but we have to think critically for our own selves and our lives and our careers and our families around what is the stuff and the belief system that we've adopted to be true that doesn't serve us, and how do we start letting some of those things go?
Yeah, it's these stereotypes. It's really interesting to see, and again, it's why I was interested in this with the balance. I saw someone talking about how a man is assertive and a woman is pushy, even though they're both doing the same thing. And you're right; it's just sort of something that we've almost fallen into. But we're going to be learning a little bit more about this on March 8th, as we're all coming together for an event on International Women's Day. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that event.
Yes, so thanks, Scott. We're really excited about doing this event with Africa Scotland Business Network and the Scottish Business Network. So we're going to be coming together to celebrate International Women's Day on the 8th of March for a fantastic panel discussion. And being true to this concept of balance, we've got some amazing female panelists and some amazing male panelists. And we're going to be talking with them around what this concept of balance means to them in their work lives and in their personal lives. You know, I think we're all trying to, 2020 was a challenging year, to put it mildly, trying to, you know, sort of refocus on what are the things that are important to us. What are the things that we were doing prior lockdown and COVID that we don't actually want to do anymore? And so this space is really around, you know, it's obviously International Women's Day, and women have often been labored with the difficult task of doing it all, right?
Yeah.
And that is really crazy. And men have been tasked with this oftentimes this burden of being the breadwinner, being the strong one, not being able to tap into their emotions and express themselves, which is also terrible. You know, toxic masculinity it's called toxic masculinity because it's poisonous. So it's not like men have come across, you know, come out of this patriarchy and this huge imbalance unscathed at all. So it's also to create a welcoming space where we start to understand each other as well. You know, how are men coping with this? What are the changes that they want to make? How do they want their futures to be? And for women, what are the concepts around balance that we need to start bringing into our lives, where having it all is not necessarily attainable goal, or even something that we should be pushing women to do? Working crazy, climbing the corporate ladder, driving their own businesses, being a mother, all this kind of stuff, and oftentimes neglecting ourselves and just being completely out of balance until we reach rock bottom and burn out. So this is really just speaking to our amazing panelists. We've got Sylvia Baldock, who is the founder of Becoming Significant. She's a fantastic coach. She leads teams. She's just really an incredible, inspiring person in enabling communities and individuals to become more significant. So she's going to be holding the conversation, which is brilliant. Our male panelists I can't announce just yet because we're just confirming them today. But we also have Fiona McKinnon, who heads up Moment Company, and they're really around enabling mindfulness and meditation, making it more accessible for people, which is just brilliant. And yeah, we'll be announcing that at the panelists, but we're really excited just to have this open dialogue where our panelists are going to get a little bit vulnerable, a little bit opening their hearts to where they are right now and sharing some of their learnings around what balance means in their lives and how they're trying to attain it.
Yeah, and it's great to have Sylvia. As you say, she's so energetic and enthusiastic. People watching it might reckon we've had Sylvia and Fiona on previous episodes of this, as well as Claire Alexander. So it'll be a coming together of great minds. I just want to say thank you for joining us today, Nicola. People will be able to find the details about the event in the description of this video, as well as where we post this around. And we'll also include details about Illumi.Nation so you can learn more. But for now, Nicola, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us.
Cool. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you now.
Thanks again to our guest today. And as always, Scott and I extend an invite to those who wish to join us on a future SBN News.
And be sure to join us on March 8th from 2 p.m. GMT as we celebrate International Women's Day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you soon.